Trust your choices and don't wait for it to be your turn. Make it your turn. Lucas Longmire. DC Tribe, Josh Thomas, super glad to have you here. Hey, want to make sure that you are aware that this podcast is available on Apple and Spotify. And if you have not yet subscribed or followed, please do that. I would really appreciate it. Make sure that you don't miss another episode of this podcast so you can hear me talking about random stuff that I'm making up on the fly. So another thing that I want to share with you is I want to make sure that you're aware of Unbreakable Teams. And that is the sponsor of this podcast. We use a science-backed process to triple your company's productivity without additional costs so you can buy back your time. To learn more about how we can help you dominate the next 12 months, head over to unbreakableteams.com. Once again, that's unbreakableteams.com. Today I want to talk about being undeniable. And I wrote this prompt almost a year ago, I think. It's been a while. And so I have one particular story that I want to tell. But there are so many other stories, and I hope something good comes up as I'm talking because I usually just show up with nothing. But about a year ago, this podcast is being recorded on February 7th. About a year ago, I was in a situation where I had lived in the same house for 13 years, and I was comfortable, I was renting it, and the rent had never gone up, and then suddenly the rent was going to double. Whoop! My friend, who was my landlord, sent me an email about this. Still don't know why he didn't call me about it, but he sent me an email saying, "Hey, bro, really appreciate you taking care of the house, but we got to double the rent." And I'm like, "Okay, hold my beer." Now, for those of you who are keeping score, the market in February of 2022 was pretty much bananas. And it was just the most insane situation anybody could be in. People were overpaying for houses and, people were getting outbid after they're overpaying. It was just kind of really crazy. But I was in the situation to where I either had to double my rent or pay about the same in a mortgage. And I thought, well, if I'm going to pay that much more money, I might as well just go ahead and buy something. Now, in hindsight, after, the market kind of cratered a little bit afterwards, in hindsight, I might not have made that decision if I had it to do over again, but I'm not going to regret it. But the reason that I'm telling you that story is not whether or not I should have bought the house. The reason I'm telling you the story is because of what I had to do in order to win. It's what I had to do in order to secure the house. I had to make myself undeniable. Okay? And so here's what happened. The house is listed at $540,000. It's pretty expensive for the house that it is and the location that it is. It wasn't my favorite really part of town or anything, but it was just not too far away from the place that I'd already known and lived for a while. It was about 5 minutes up the road. And so I'm like, okay, I find this house. It only took me a couple of days to find it. And I'm like, oh, that's just up the street. Cool. And it's in good shape. It's in a neighborhood I'm familiar with. It's in a part of town that I recognize and that I'm comfortable in. And it solves my problem. Let's just do it. And so I called up my good friend Ashley Herrera, and she got me pre-qualified for a mortgage, and we started going. And she gave me this piece of advice because I didn't want to mess around. I mean, this house was on the market for 3 days at that point that I saw it, and every house was flying off. Every house was being offered at significantly over, some houses more than $100,000 over the asking price. So, man, I definitely would be stretching it to pay $100,000 over the asking price of this home that's already $500,000. And so I'm like, all right, the mortgage is already going to be huge, so I don't know what to do with this. And so I'm talking it over with Ashley. And I said, okay, well, I have to make an offer that's over the asking price. And so I don't want to offer 600. I think that's too much. If I have to pay 600 for this house, I'm just going to pass. I'll just live under a bridge. It's fine. But, I'm comfortable meeting in the middle. Let's say I'll offer 575. And she's like, all right. And I thought, well, is that going to get the house? I don't know. I feel like that's a bold, ballsy move. And she said, well, what you really should do is you should drop the option period. And for those of you that, are maybe many of you have bought a house, maybe haven't. The option period is basically, hey, I'm going to make this offer on the house and you're going to accept it. And then I'm going to pay you $100. And I have a 7-day option to walk away from the agreement, the binding agreement that we have within 7 days. I lose $100. And so what that did at the time, she said, that's a power move. If you really want to show people that you want this house, you need to make this power move and you need to make it undeniable that you are the best selection because it's going to be competitive. And so what that really does is it says, if you select me, you do not have to worry about wasting 7 days with somebody hemming and hawing and asking for repairs or changes or whatever, because I'm going hard on day one with that offer. And if I back out, then I lose my earnest money deposit, which is significantly more than $100. It was thousands of dollars.